I attack your Vanguard with my Vanguard. Drive trigger check. Critical trigger. Now that's a pretty sweet bonus. That's 6 damage right there. That means I win. Aw, man. I was so close this time. Oh, well, I'll get you next time, bud. Oh, we'll see about that. And hey, thanks again for teaching me the game of Vanguard. I'm loving it more and more every time I get to play with it. Oh, don't mention it, man. I love teaching people how to play the game of Vanguard. It's really my most favorite thing to do. Yeah, man, I bet you do. But hey, I actually had a question to ask you. Oh, really? Go right ahead. Alright, cool, thanks. A friend of mine was telling me about this thing called premium format, and what's that all about? I'm glad you asked, random citizen. Let's get into it. Who are you talking to? Why, the people, of course. Let's play some premium format. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Truechampionsteven back here again with another Vanguard video for y'all. As I'm sure you can tell by the intro and like the funny little skit that I did at the beginning, we're going to be talking about the premium format for Cardfight Vanguard today. I'm super excited because as I'm sure some of you may know, my most popular video on this channel has been my Learn How to Play Cardfight Vanguard video. Really amazing. I'm so happy that a lot of people like it and are learning a lot from it. I'm getting a lot of people saying thank you for this video. I've been meaning to learn how to play Cardfight Vanguard, and I just was always too afraid to ask people how to play or was confused with some of the rules. So I'm really happy you guys are enjoying it. So I'm kind of making this video as like the sequel, because a lot of you guys have been asking on what the premium format's all about. Like, what's so special? What's so different about it? Is it like expanded format for Pokemon? Is it like modern? Like, what's so premium about it? Well, that's what we're gonna go over today. I do recommend, though, that if you haven't seen the Learn How to Play Cardfight Vanguard standard video, or you don't know the basic rules of Cardfight Vanguard, I really recommend you go watch that video. It'll be up in the cards above, as well as in the link in the description below. Please go watch the video, pause this video right now, and go learn the rules of Cardfight Vanguard, then come back to me, because I'm not going to be going over any basic rules. I'm assuming that you all have an understanding of basic game procedure, mechanic, tempo, all that stuff. I'm not going to go over what counterblasting is, what soul blasting is, what a ride is, what a rear guard is. I'm not going to be going over any of that stuff. I'll be talking about the mechanics of premium format that are different than the mechanics in standard format. And to do that, I'm going to be going over 3 things in this video. The first thing, I'm going to take you guys through a history of all the mechanics that have existed in Cardfight Vanguard, because if you guys did not know this, premium format is a format where every card set that's ever existed and the cards that come from those sets are legal to play in premium format. It has its own unique ban list, and I'll leave a link to that in the description below so that way you guys know what cards you can and cannot play. But it's pretty small, so don't worry about that too much. The second thing I'm going to go over is realistically what rules of the game are different. There's not that many. Mostly it's adding another phase in your game. It's nothing like really game changer. Most of the rules stay the same. There are a little here and there rules and rulings that I will go over in case they are important for you guys to know. And then the last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to go over what it's like to build a deck in premium format nowadays. You know, what do we pros do when it comes to building a competitive deck, because there's just such a large card pool. How do we discern what's good and what's bad? Well, there's definitely a power creep involved towards the later half of sets, for sure. Not every card is always relevant. Most cards in Cardfight Vanguard are not relevant. However, it is important that you guys understand you can play whatever you want in premium, whether it be Limit Break or Strides, who knows. So I'm really excited to teach you guys all about that today, and it should be actually really exciting, and I'm super happy about this video. I hope it'll come out well. I hope you guys will like it. If you do, please be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so that way you guys know when my videos go live for you. And now, with all that being said, let's go ahead and hop into Cardfight area and talk about some Vanguard cards. Let's go! Alright everyone, here we are in Cardfight area, my favorite place to go to test Cardfight Vanguard and have some fun. But before we get started with everything, and I show you guys the deck, or like the collection of cards that I put together so that way you guys can learn some cool mechanics. Let me do a quick little plug really quick for my Twitch channel. 2 and/or 3 weeks from today, I'll be doing another marathon type charity stream on my Twitch channel for Autism Speaks, and I'm really hoping that you guys can come through as the true squad members. It was a really amazing stream for me to do last month. If you guys haven't already and been to my Twitch channel, please go check it out. If not, just to check out the highlight from the first charity stream, which was 22.5 hours, and we raised over $1,300 for Autism Speaks, and I'm hoping to do something like that again. This time, though, it'll be a lot more organized. I have some fun things planned, some Cardfight Vanguard, some Pokemon TCG, some video game stuff, some marbles on stream, all kinds of crazy stuff. for you guys. So definitely go check out my Twitch channel. I would love to see you guys in there whenever I go live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And hey, maybe I'll start doing some Cardfight Vanguard on stream if enough people want me to, for sure. I'm always open to suggestions, and I'm always open to just trying out new things with the viewers that I have coming in, and it's just been a super fun time, and I hope to see you guys in there. Also, if you guys want any news about when I go live off schedule, or when I'm just doing fun things in my life, feel free to follow my Twitter and Instagram accounts, all found in the links below. Alright guys, I've teased you long enough. Let's go ahead and teach you all about some premium format cards. Alright. As always, whenever I teach y'all anything about Cardfight Vanguard, we have to use my go-to clan, Kagero. First things first, as you guys can see, there's a lot of draw triggers in this deck. I only grabbed one card of each, thing. Look at that, it's even telling me, hey, this guy has 40 triggers in his deck because it catches cheaters like that, but don't worry, I have 40 triggers in my deck, that's so funny. But anywho, the reason why it's like this is that, you have to have a deck of 50 cards in Cardfight area, so in order for me to have one copy of all the stuff that I need to show you guys, well, it wasn't having it, so I had to just fill it with something. I figured it'd be funny to fill it all with all the draw triggers in Kagero, so that's pretty fun. The oldest one being Monica, this one. No, wait, no, this one. Yeah, original Dragon Dancer Monica. Super old card, almost 10 years old, that card. Anywho, enough of that stuff. Let's go through some mechanics. The first thing, most importantly, is that starters actually have abilities in premium format. They're not just on-ride, draw a card. They have this thing called Forerunner. Here it's not called Forerunner, here it just says when another Kagero unit rides this unit, you may call this card to a rearguard circle. Basically what Forerunner means. So imagine this scenario, you have Conroe right here. Let's say I ride a grade 1, imagine this is a grade 1 on my Conroe. What I can do is I can go to my soul, click my soul, grab Conroe, and now I can call him to any rearguard circle. Most of the time, all you did was call him behind your rearguard circle. So it kind of acted the same way that the starters do nowadays and giving you a +1, but instead of a +1 in hand, it's a +1 on board. And a lot of the times, these Forerunners had other abilities. For example, Conroe here has counterblast 1 to retire this unit, search your deck for up to 1 grade 1 or less Kagero unit, and add it to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. Really powerful ability, one of the most consistent cards in the history of the game. I was actually in love with Soldier Conroe. This card was so good, they actually banned this card for a long time. You couldn't use him as your starter. You could have him in your deck, but you couldn't use him as your starter. He was that good, because grade 1s were so important, and if you could just fish out one of grade 1s, it was crazy. Also, there was this like broken combo with him in the original Novel Vague Dragon guy. Don't worry about that too much, but hey, fun facts about fun games. Anywho, that's the first big one. Realistically though, the Forerunners don't matter as much as they used to, because the +1 6k draw cards are just so much better. Plus, there's a lot of retire effects in premium, so like keeping your Forerunner alive doesn't really happen that much, but every now and then you'll see a deck with a Forerunner because the Forerunner's abilities can be broken sometimes. So definitely recommend checking out the Forerunners in your clan if you're thinking about building a premium deck. But yeah, your on-ride draw card is most of the time okay. Now, the first big mechanic that was introduced, I think it was the first year that the game came out, it's called Cross Ride. Back in the day, the highest power we had of grade 3s was 11. That was the benchmark. Not 13, not 12, 11. So which means magic numbers back then was 16, not 18. So imagine a deck that could increase its defensive power. Well, guess what? Every clan had the ability to do that with this thing called Cross Ride. Let me explain to you what that is. Here we have Dragonic Overlord the End, the original Dragonic Overlord the End, not the new one. His ability, he has this effect that says if you have a card named Dragonic Overlord in your soul, continuous, this unit gets power plus 2,000. Notice, it's continuous, which means if I rode this unit and I had another Dragonic Overlord, a regular Dragonic Overlord I should say, in the soul, he gained 2,000 power. And now it had to be a Dragonic Overlord. It couldn't be Dragonic Overlord the End. It had to be Dragonic Overlord. And Cross Ride was really powerful because it was both offensive and defensive. I could swing with my Vanguard for 21 by having an 8k booster, but then on the crackback, my opponent, who was having 16k columns, I could guard with a 5k. That was insane. Add that to the amazing ability of the End here, on hit, counterblast 2, discard a copy of itself, and restand, was broken. Dragonic Overlord at the End was one of those broken decks in the history of the game. This deck, I believe, won Worlds the third year the third time we had Worlds. It won, but it didn't win. Well, it did win, but it didn't win because of Cross Ride. It won because of something else, which I'll talk about later. But Dragonic Overlord at the End was always a broken deck. And Crossride was a big factor of it for a long time because it could have that amazing offense and then have that awesome defense. Crossride is less important nowadays in Premium, but it is a thing that you can take advantage of, especially since this ability, Crossride, would work with the new Dragonic Overlord that came out in the brand new trial deck, the Force Imaginary Gift one. It would still work, so that's like a little interesting thing. Moving on, though, to one of my personal favorite mechanics in the game, Limit Break. Here we have Dragonic Lawkeeper, by far my favorite Limit Break deck of all time. I've played Raging Form, I've played Dauntless Drive, I've played Link Joker, but no, Dragonic Lawkeeper was my first Limit Break deck. I was in love with it when I was like 15 years old. I won against some decks that I did not deserve to win with, and it was amazing. And now you might be sitting at home going, Steven, what's Limit Break? I'll tell you, random citizen. The way Limit Break worked was that it's basically what it says. You have this added cost or added requirement before you can use an effect. So normally you have to go Counter Blast 1, Soul Blast 1, on place, yada yada yada. Well, the way a Limit Break worked is that this ability or this skill could only be used if your damage count was the number specified by the Limit Break. In this case, it says Limit Break 4. See that little LB4 right there where my mouse is? Hopefully you guys can see my mouse. But it's right next to the axe symbol for Dragonic Lawkeeper in his first skill, that little LB4. That stands for Limit Break 4. This ability can only be used if you have 4 or more damage. And Limit Break defined the format. Every Limit Break unit had an amazing ability. Sometimes they didn't, but they had really good abilities. And it actually added this sense of control and tempo to the game that it didn't have before, because these effects would be so strong, and we'll get into a little bit more, even more powerful effects, but it would be a way for you to kind of control the tempo. Like if you were kind of a little bit behind your opponent, you wouldn't give them 4 damage, because if you did, then they could blow up on you, and then they could gain even more advantage on you, or you just lose. So if you were behind, you would attack rear guards more often and try and stop them from using their really broken abilities. This forced Bushiroad to create cards that actually damaged yourself, so you could activate your Limit Breaks. It was an insane format that I was really happy to be a part of, and really cool decks and archetypes came out of it. This was the format where they released Gold Paladin and Narukami for the first time. It was also an introduction of new clans. That was the first time that ever happened. Like, it was an amazing era of Vanguard. It was the era that I got really serious about Vanguard 2, which I was very, very proud to be a part of. Also, the worst Vanguard anime season 2, is by far the worst one. Asia Circuit is what it's called. Don't even bother watching it. It's literal trash. Anywho, moving on to kind of a subset of Limit Break, there was actually this thing called Break Rides. And here's the best break ride ever, Dauntless Drive Dragon. You might have heard me talk about him earlier. This was the most broken deck in the history of the game. Don't even at me right now. Dauntless Drive Dragon was ridiculous. Moving on, wait, really quick though, pause this really quick. Spectral Duke Dragon was the best Limit Break deck, and Limit Break was the first format where we actually had a World Championships, and Spectral Duke Dragon, the Gold Paladin Limit Break unit that wasn't Ezel, is what won. Fun facts. Just wanted to put that out there as a fun little history fact for you guys who are here for history and not just how to play premium format. But anyway, let's talk about Break Rides. Basically, Break Rides are kind of also what they sound like. They were Limit Break effects that happened when a unit rode on top of this. Not this unit riding on top of another unit. That's a big misnomer that a lot of people actually get wrong. So let me explain to you what this Limit Break is. It's a basic Limit Break, like I just said. If you have 4 more damage, this effect can activate. And then it says, when a Kagero unit rides this unit, choose your Vanguard, and until end of turn, that unit gets power plus 10,000, and auto choose 3 cards from your hand, and discard them at the end of the battle that this unit attacked. If this unit has not become stand during that turn, you may pay the cost. If you do, stand this unit. In freaking insane ability. A lot of things to unpack there really quick. So first of all, that thing about adding 10,000 power. So basically, this was a free 10,000 power add on a ride if you had 4 more damage. Boom. Every deck had that kind of essence. You would gain 10,000 power on ride. Almost every break ride did that. Like, everyone. But then the effect that was also added to your Vanguard would change. So basically, the way the break ride worked was that it bestowed an extra skill onto your Vanguard for 1 turn. And notice it was a restanding effect. And notice how I said earlier that Dragonic Overlord at the end had a restanding effect. So basically what would happen is you would ride Dragonic Overlord on top of Dauntless Drive Dragon, have a 21k Vanguard that on swing, if it didn't hit, even if it did hit, you could just restand, and then you swing again. And then that time, if it hit, you could actually Counterblast 2, discard a copy of Dragonic Overlord at the end, restand again, and swing again. That's 6 drive checks in 1 turn, minus 4 cards. That's a plus 2 cards to your hand. It was an insane combo. This did win Worlds the 3rd time around, I think. I could be wrong on my timeline of that, but I'm pretty sure it did at some point win Worlds. I think it was the second time that an American won Worlds too. I'm not sure. Those kind of facts I'm not really good on, but in terms of the format, break rides were everywhere. This was like, you never put your opponent to 4 damage unless you were confident you could survive break ride turns, because it gave this era of burst ability to Vanguard. You just had huge burst turns where, like, on break ride, swing like with a bunch of dudes with a whole bunch of power and just try and blow up your opponent. There was like a full board restand 3 times in Beast Deities with like reverse units and all kinds of stuff. It was freaking insane. I was in love with break rides. That was the format where I was actually good at the game, because I played Raging Form Dragon and I like a try-hard, and I just partied on people. It was an amazing format to be a part of. If you weren't a part of that format, it was pretty freaking exciting. It was hard to play in too, because everyone would try and counter you or just try and like avoid your limit break or your break ride turn, and so you kind of had to build your deck with that in mind, and it was actually kind of hard because it was always like a back and forth instead of like a steady tempo, where one of you was just going to take over the game, like it is now in kind of standard. That's kind of what standard feels like to me, like a constant race, and one of you is driving and the other one's not driving, and then you're kind of hopeless. That's what standard is to me right now. But break ride format, whoo baby, all kinds of stuff would happen. You know, like you could come back like that. It was crazy. Speaking of break rides, this was the first time they ever reprinted Dragonic Overlord. He was reprinted as a break ride. The original Dragonic Overlord, he became a break ride, very similar to Dauntless Drive Dragon, but you had to attack a rear guard. Really cool art. Like, look at that. That was SP back in the day. Beautiful card. Just wanted to throw that out there. Alright, after Break Ride, we got this new thing. This whole brand new season of Cardfight Vanguard, and this whole new mechanic. It completely changed the game. It was called Legion. And now let's talk about Legion. Here we have Dragonic Overlord, the Cross. Like, or the X. I like saying the Cross, because that's what I believe it is on the show. And or what they called it in Japan. But the X is also understandable. Now here it just says Legion 22k power, but let me explain to you guys what Legion basically means. Legion says, return 4 cards from your drop zone into your deck, shuffle your deck, search your deck for a copy of a card that legions with your Vanguard. Here it says Legion Dragonic Overlord at the end. That means that when I return 4 cards to my deck, I would search my deck for a copy of Dragonic Overlord at the end, and I would do this. I would do exactly this. Watch this. How do you, I think you just... I forget how you do it, like, oh, right there. It's right there, it's this button. Legion. Boom, look at that. That's what Legion is. You combine 2 Vanguards and you make them one. It was the closest thing we had to Fusion in Cardfight Vanguard. So basically, the way it would work is the cost was having 4 cards in your drop zone. So, in my mind, what Bushiroad was trying to do was they were trying to make the game, quote-unquote, more defensive / faster. Because limit breaks did kind of take a while to get done. Unless you just said no guard to every attack, and your opponent attacked you 4 times, you weren't going to get your limit break off. And a lot of times, people didn't do that. They wouldn't give you 4 damage until you either lost, or they thought they could kill you in 1 turn, or until they felt safe enough to deal with whatever it was you were going to do on the following turn. But as long as your opponent was attacking you, you could trigger your Legion, because it worked through the cards in your drop zone. So what people would do is they would just guard with cards from their hand, even if it wasn't enough to stop the attack. They would still just throw cards in the wind and stack their drop zone, because Legion effects were so freaking powerful. For example, the Cross says when this unit legions, search your deck up to 1 card with the same card name as a unit on your Vanguard, which means I could search for either the End or the Cross, because there's 2 units on my Vanguard circle now. That was crazy for a whole lot of rulings, by the way. Not every Legion was with a grade 3. In fact, most Legions was a grade 3 and a grade 2. Or a grade 3 and a grade 2, the Legion ones on this, and then, because you see that little, there's normally like a little Legion symbol. It looks like this, that little like bar thing on the far right here. It's kind of like a V, but like not really. And then the Legion unit was called the Legion Mate. It was a whole thing. That season of the anime is, by the way, the only season of the anime that's sub only. There's no dub for season 4. I don't know why. I think it's like a time thing. They just didn't have enough time to make it, but like it takes like 30 seconds or like 3 days, or like 3 days to record all the audio for that kind of stuff. But hey, I'm not a producer. I don't know. It's not my place to judge. But anywho, Legion was crazy. For America, it was way less important because we only had Legion for 2 months. I think Japan had it for a good 6 or 7. So yeah, we got like all the sets like order messed up, and we got like all the cards in like 2 sets, and they just kind of rushed through it because people didn't actually like Legion format, because a lot of broken stuff came out of Legion format, because you could imagine returning 4 triggers to your deck and then thinning your deck by another unit and then doing really broken effects like restanding and blah 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 was actually not that healthy for the game. And to an extent it wasn't, but it also just didn't last that long. One of the most broken decks ever kind of came out too. It was called something like Thing Saber Abyss, yeah, where you played Phantom Blaster Abyss, the Shadow Paladin Legion, and then you played the Royal Paladin Legion, Thing Saber Dragon with Blaster Blade Seeker, which was like a whole other thing. That archetype was crazy. But the point of Legion was, and like the real point I'm getting at with what you guys should take away from Legion, is that it was the first time where we've had 2 units on our Vanguard circle that, by the way, when you would attack, their power would combine, but when you would be attacked, you could only pick one of their powers as your defensive power. That was a big thing to keep in mind, by the way. So Draconic Overlord the X here, when he would attack, would be 22k base, and then when he would be attacked, and you're defending, he'd only be 11. So that's a big thing to keep in mind. So yeah, that's Legion. It was crazy. Stuff got real, but it's time to talk about everyone's favorite and/or everyone's least favorite mechanic in the history of Cardfight Vanguard. Definitely the most powerful and most crazy, strides. For this, we need to go to the extra deck and/or the G zone. Ba-da-da-da-da. Hello, welcome to the G zone. This is literally the extra deck of Cardfight Vanguard. Here we keep all of our strides and G units. Sorry, here we keep all of our G units and our G guardians. They are our synchro monsters. They are our XZ's monsters. They are our brokenness. They're the things that we keep separate of our deck, separate from our main deck. It's the closest thing that we're ever going to get to a side deck in Vanguard. That's basically what it is as well. Alright, basic rules of the G zone. You can only have 16 cards in this G zone maximum, and it can be a combination of any strides and any G guardians. That's what that is. A G guardian has a green border, like this, and a G unit has a red border, like this. They're all grade 4s, and it's pretty awesome. So let's talk about G units. Alright, basically, here, let me click on one. Here we have Supreme, Heavenly, Emperor, Dragon, Draconic Overlord, the Ace. The first thing about G units, all their names are super long and repetitive, but it's kind of cool, and they all look dope. That's another one. They all kind of look dope. So here's the basic way Stride worked. So Stride basically said that you could discard a total of cards from your hand that sum up to 3. So that could be 1 grade 3, it could be 3 grade 1s, it could be 2 grade 2s, a grade 2 and a grade 1, you know, a grade 3 and a grade 1 even. You could always discard more, but why would you discard more when you didn't have to? And then what you would do is, after you discard, you would search your G zone for a G unit, and you would stride it on top of your Vanguard. And you kind of can't see it very well here in this picture, so I'll show you here. Here you can see, this is another one, Supreme, Heavenly, Emperor, Dragon, Draconic Overlord, the Purge. There's a lot of there's a lot of dragons, and they're all overlords, whole thing. Anywho, the way striding worked was that the Vanguard that you had on your original Vanguard circle now became the heart of your unit, and it would look like this. It would look like that. You would stride it on top of it, and you would layer it over the power like this. That's striding. And the reason you did that was because the stride here, his power is 15,000 plus. What that means is you add 15k to the power of your Vanguard, and that's his total power. 26,000 was the standard for a lot of strides. And the heart unit shared the name. So this unit would also be, say I strode him on top of this here, he would be Supreme Heavenly Dragon, Draconic Overlord the Purge, and he would also be Draconic Overlord the Cross. This is a bad example because in Legion you pick one of them and stride it on that, so they don't both count as the heart, only one of them is, but that's whatever. Don't pay attention to that. So they would share names, they would not share abilities. So any ability that the Cross had, if it was like an auto on attack or whatever, and I attack with this, that didn't count. But all the strides had their own abilities, and those all obviously activated. We don't need to go over the purges here, it's kind of complicated, so don't worry about that too much. But one thing I want to bring up here is that there's 2 things here. Number 1, the strides had their own abilities, and they had their own power, and they had their own way of making their power, but they also had triple drive. That's what this symbol is underneath this. Here's twin drive, right? That's twin drive. There's triple drive right there underneath the grade. Broken. You got 3 drive checks with these bad boys every time you attacked with them. It was insane. It was so aggressive, the format was so fast, and it was freaking insane. the second thing I want to bring up is that at the end of your turn, you return this unit to your G zone, and it would go face up. It would become face up in your G zone. Before it was face down like this, but now it's face up, you see? And this added to a thing called generation break, which is this symbol down here, this little red GB3 down there. It's a lot like limit break. However, instead of your damage being what you had to have at a certain number, now the number of cards face up in your G zone was what you needed to have. So 3 means I have to have 3 units face up. And the number of units face up could include the one that's already on your Vanguard circle. So if I had one on my Vanguard and one face up in my G zone, that's generation break 2. If I only had the one on my face up on my Vanguard and no face up on my G zone, that would only be 1. And then if I had 2 and then 1, 3, 3 and then 1, 4, you guys get the idea. It would go up and go up and go up because the unit is returned face up, and you can only stride G units that are face down from your G zone. You cannot stride them if they're face up, unless they have an effect that says you can. But I don't think any do, so don't worry about that. So they have to be face down. And that's basically what a G unit is. That's what striding is. That's why it's so OP, because you get triple drive, and they all had busted effects, and every single clan had them, and it was in-freaking-sane. And generation breaks were also broken, too, because there are generation break 8s. I think there's a generation break, like 15, I don't know. I think that's not true, but there might be. But generation break 8 is definitely the benchmark for a high number. You can imagine how long it would take to get, like, 3 or 4 G units and, like, deep into a game. And then, boom, do these, like, really busted effects. There were decks that, like, turboed in Generation Break 8s that would kind of, like, try and get them off really fast and win. Not really that many that were actually that good, but it was pretty fun to watch, and the Generation Breaks had powerful effects. But there is one more G unit that I want to bring up before we get to G Guardians, because that's a whole other beast. And it's called an Ultimate Stride. Here we have Zeroth Dragon of Inferno Drachma. The Dragon Empire, that's right, Dragon Empire, Zeroth Dragon, and or Ultimate Stride. Here's what Ultimate Stride is. So, you can release this unit when the number of face-up cards in your G-Zone is 3 or more. Now, notice that's not Generation Break 3. If it was Generation Break 3, you could, in theory, stride it just by having a dude face-up and then 2 face-up here. No, this has to be 3 face-up in your G-Zone. Second thing is, when it would return to your G-Zone, you exclude your G-Zone, which means when this unit goes back to your G-Zone at the end of your turn, you take your entire G-Zone, you pick it up, and you say, oh, it's out of the game forever. You remove it from play. You can no longer use any card from that G-Zone until the game is over. That's what excluding means. So guess what? This thing basically says, hey, if you don't win with me, you lose your way of pressuring. So that's how broken these things were, because they have to have broken effects. And then in order to stride this unit, instead of discarding a total sum of up to 3, you had to discard a unit with the same card name as your Vanguard, and you could only stride, by the way, this is a caveat too that I didn't mention about strides, you can only stride when both you and your opponent are grade 3. That's the thing I forgot to mention. So you can only stride when you and your opponent are grade 3, and for an ultimate stride, you have to stride the same unit as the unit on your Vanguard. So if I wanted to stride this unit on top of Draconic Overlord the Cross here, I would have to discard a Draconic Overlord the Cross. No ifs, ands, or buts. It had to be that one. Couldn't be anything else. Bada bing, bada boom. There are some effects that let you ultimate strike for free, but again, don't worry about that. Here we're just going to try and explain how this mechanic worked. And a lot of Zeroth Dragons had broken abilities. And here's the thing about Zeroth Dragons really quick. He's the Dragon Empire Zeroth Dragon. He's not a Kagero unit. This card could be played in any Dragon Empire deck. That's Murakumo, Tachikaze, Kagero, Narukami, Nubatama. Boom. You could play this card in any of those any of those decks, completely legal, and he has an effect that retires all your opponent's Vanguard, like all your opponent's rear guards and Vanguard, binds them all, discards cards in your opponent's hand, and then forces your opponent to ride one of those cards from hand, and if they can't, they automatically lose the game. This card is crazy. All the Zeroth Dragons are crazy. Pick one up. They're really expensive, but they're really good. Strides were the reason, fun fact, you guys, why Cardfight Vanguard was such a tough game for new beginners to get in. Like, Strides literally ruined Vanguard. So Bushiroad was like, we're just gonna make a new format and reboot it. And so now we can't use Strides in standard format. That's literally why we have Imaginary Gifts. That's literally why we have this new format / reboot. It's because these cards were so expensive. All Strides, all these generation rares you see here, super freaking expensive, and you had to buy 16 of them on top of your main deck of 50 cards. That included a lot of triple rares or SPs or double rares and yet not. the game was super expensive to build. Every deck on average was like $250 to like $300. It was insane. All the really meta and good decks. So no one entered because the cost of entry was so high, but now the cost of entry is so low. That's why we're seeing a resurgence of all these new players. And a lot of you new players are loving Vanguard, and you're like, what's premium about? Well, guess what? Steven's teaching about Vanguard today. Here we go. Alright guys, that's probably the most important mechanic that we should go over because it's the most powerful one that still is super powerful and like meta relevant for the premium format. But there's one more that we need to talk about, and that's G Guardians. And it works a lot like Strides, except completely different. So, G Guardian. Choose a card with heal from your hand and discard it. Call this card to Guardian Circle face down. Basically, this is a G unit that you call as a Guardian. It's not a Vanguard. This is a defensive G unit. You could have, you could only use you could only G Guardian if you and your opponent are both grade 3, number 1. In order to G Guardian, you have to discard a heal trigger from your hand, not a grade 3, not anything like that. It has to be a heal trigger. So if you only have 4 heal triggers in your deck, you can only do it 4 times. That's why there's this third thing. You can only have 4 G Guardians face up in your G zone in order to use a G Guard. So if I have 3, I can G Guard, boom, go to 4. However, so imagine this. Imagine I have 6 G Guardians in my G zone, and I have 3 face up in my G zone already. And say I use some effects to return heal triggers back into my deck. Well, if I discard 3 heal triggers during that defense step, I can actually call 3 G Guardians at once because the total number that I have at that time of calling them all is still 3. I hope that makes sense to you. If it didn't, feel free to ask a question down in the comment below. I'm happy to elaborate on how that works, but you guys don't really need to understand the nuances of how G Guardians work. Just know that in order to use them, you need to discard a heal trigger, and then they go to the Guardian Circle, and they have broken effects. Their broken effects can involve disrupting your opponent, adding a butt ton of shield to their shield value, which is, by the way, base 15 if you can't read it. Yeah, it says base 15. It's really hard to read, but it's base 15k shield. Back in the day, that was a lot. Now our triggers have base 15 shield, but they do gain like a butt ton of shield. Like there are ones that basically gain 80k shield, and it's like it's basically a perfect guard essentially. So, key thing here, I wanted to mention this one though in particular, Denial Griffin, because it's basically the most powerful Kagero Guardian in the world. Counterblast 1, when this unit is placed on Guardian Circle, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's attacking rear guards and retire it. Basically, the unit that they attacked, if it was a rear guard, you just blew it up and then their attack fizzled and stopped. Really broken. It didn't matter what his shield value was, but he does have a shield value of 15, so you could just, you know, if it was like an attack that was over 15k power, say it was 100,000k, or 100,000k, 100k, you could just go Denial Griffin, kill it, boom, get out of my face. Incredible. Amazing card, was really awesome for Kagero. I loved it so much. This is basically the Dragonic Overlord, but his name is Defeat Flare. I don't know why he's not Dragonic Overlord. The Shield. That's a opportunity missed in my opinion. Bushy Road. But yeah, guys, that's the G Zone. That's probably the most important mechanic in the history of Vanguard. Definitely the most important mechanic in terms of you guys wanting to get into premium format. However, I will mention one more thing before we move on. Obviously, and that's going to be Stride Breaks. These are effects that activated because this unit had a stride on top of it. So basically, it's what it means. It says it's the second ability here for Dragonic Overlord, the Destiny. Counterblast 1. When your G unit stride on top of this unit, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, retire it, look at the top 7 cards, add an Overlord from among them into your hand. Basically, if you strode on top of this unit and you paid the cost for the effect, you could use the effect on top of it. I know I said that their effects go away when you stride on top of them, but this is activated because they are being strode upon. Strode upon. So, these are really cool. There's another one here, it's a lot more simple. Dragonic Blade Master. Counterblast 1, during your turn, when your G unit stride, you may pay the cost. If you do, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. Very simple, to the point. Auto Vanguard, boom. Makes total sense. And he also has a generation break, like I explained before, of 2. So yeah, guys, that's kind of it for all of the mechanics that are in Cardfight Vanguard premium format, as well as a little bit of the history on all of them that I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want me to elaborate on anything that I told you guys about, that's like, hey, that's a really cool story, let me know about that. And you guys want to get like an actual video of like the history of the metas of Cardfight Vanguard, I'd be happy to do something like that. That sounds really fun to do. But that's kind of it for all you need to know. I did include like an imaginary gift here because that isn't a mechanic that. But if you guys know how to play standard, then you know about imaginary gifts. So I'm not going to explain that to you guys. But here's Dragon Lord the Great, one of my favorite units. Fun fact about Dragon Lord the Great: he actually was one of the most powerful legions for Kagero back in the day, and now he's being reborn in standard as this awesome force unit. So that's really exciting. But anywho, enough of that. Let's go ahead and talk about the actual rule differences in premium format. You guys, I totally forgot. So while I was editing this video, fun little actual like future Steven, hello, I already finished recording everything you're about to see after this and everything before, but I totally forgot to mention this very important thing about the history of the game, or like the mechanics that are in premium that aren't actually in standard, and that's a little thing called keyword skills. Basically, these are skills that were so ubiquitous across certain clans that eventually Bushiroad was just like, you know what? Every clan gets a keyword skill to explain some archetype of its abilities. For example, Dark Irregulars, they have Darkness. For example, Royal Paladins have Brave, Kagero has Blaze, yada yada yada. I will leave a link to the wiki page that explains all the individual clan different keyword skills, because if I wanted to go through all of them today, it would take way too long. But I'm going to go over some important keyword skills that are actual mechanics of the game and actually change the way that you interact with these cards instead of just being some kind of easy shorthand for what their abilities mean. So let's go ahead and talk about that. First of all, these are Link Joker draw triggers from across the world, because we're going to be talking about a very important mechanic called Lock. I can't believe I didn't bring up Lock. Lock is an important mechanic of the game, but it's not necessarily a mechanic of Vanguard. More so, it's an ability that another clan has specific to it that does change the rules of the game. So we'll talk about Lock really quick. Here's basically what Lock is. Here I have a unit in my rearguard circle. If my opponent has a unit that says effect counterblast 1 lock one of your opponent's rearguards, what they do is, I think it's control. Yes, you turn it face down, and now that rearguard circle, I cannot move this card, even though I just moved it right there. I cannot move this card. I cannot attack with it. It has no name. It's nothing. It's literally a removed circle from the game, but the unit is basically just right there. Imagine they put it into a cage of darkness, and it's just sitting in front of that rearguard circle. That's what locking is. In case you guys did not know already, locking, on top of break riding and limit break format, was by far one of the most important mechanics in the history of the game. It also gave birth to this other kind of sub-mechanic called reverse units, where basically in order to use their effects, they had to lock their own rearguards as part of the cost. That was a whole thing. I think like 10 or 12 clans got reverse units. I don't want to go over which ones are, which ones don't, but this is Link Joker. This was the birth of Link Joker. They were evil. Not evil anymore, but they were evil before. But now they have this new mechanic called like Banish, Delete, or whatever you want to call it. But back in the day, locking was the original control deck. It was the original stopping your opponent from doing the things they want to do, because they would only have their Vanguard swing and none of their rear guards, and all their rear guards were useless. And you could actually infinitely lock certain cards, and or just retire the locked units after they were being useless, and then plus off of that. So locking was very important. That's basically what lock cards do and mean. A unit becomes unlocked during the end of your turn. I'll show you right now. Oh, well, normally it's supposed to do that, but it's fine. They unlock at the end of your turn. At the end of your turn, not the end of your opponent's turn. So, like, imagine they locked it during their turn ends. It doesn't matter. Your unit is still locked until the end of your turn, until the end of the owner's turn. For example, if I was the owner of this unit right here, and I locked it during my turn for one of my effects, then yes, it would unlock at the end of my turn versus at the end of my opponent's turn, because it's not my opponent's unit, it is mine. That's a big thing as well. So that's lock. The second one we're going to go over is not this. I don't know why this is here. We're going to go over not this either. I don't know why that's there either. We're going to go over resist. This unit just says resist on it. It doesn't explain what resist does, but a lot of clans like Aquaforce, Great Nature, I'm pretty sure Mega Colony has one. Royal Paladin definitely has some. Gold Paladin definitely has some. A lot of clans have resist units. And the way resist works is basically, how do I explain this in a way that makes sense? They couldn't be targeted by your opponent's abilities. Now, that's not to say that they couldn't be affected. They couldn't be targeted. So picture Promise Daughter. Promise Daughter says that she cannot be retired by effects. However, I can still target her for my effect of retire. It just fizzles out and nothing happens. This is different. Say this resist unit is the only unit in play. Wait, no, is that a bad example? Say this resist unit is a unit in play. and I played Berserk Dragon, Counter +1, Soul +1, I can retire opponent's unit, and I could not target this unit for that effect. Say I was Link Joker, and I said Counter +1, lock one of your units. I could not pick this one. I would have to pick a different unit that was in play. Now, with that being said, these units can still be affected by attacks. They just cannot be the sole target of the set attack. For example, set of effect. They can still be attacked. Set effect. Basically, say I had a unit that says Counterblast 2, retire all retire all rear guards in play. There was actually a card like that before called Tempest Boom Dragon. Not the point of the story. However, any resist unit in play would still be affected because they were not being targeted. The board, or like the rear guard circles, or all the units were being targeted, not just this. Say I had an effect that says target the circle and then retire any unit that is there. Yes, that does get around resist because you're targeting the circle, not the unit that's on it. The unit that's on it is being affected by you targeting the circle. That's an actual ruling that matters because Dragon Conflict Destiny has that exact ability. So, there you guys go. That's what resist is. A lot of clans have it. Make sure that when you see it, it looks kind of like this. Do you see this little red symbol right there? It'll always be in red font, so it'll be easy to read, but that's what it is. That little red font right there is resist. Not these words here. This little red like kanji symbol next to the rear guard circle. I think it's kanji. We know this is Japanese, huh? I don't know what it's called. I'm freaking out. I'm so sorry if I don't know what this is called, but you guys get the idea. That's what it looks like, and it has like resist in quotation marks, and it's really cool. But anywho, guys, that is the only one that. Oh, actually, no, what? No, that's not it. I'm sorry. That's continuous. Resist is up here. It's this up here. Never mind. It is in quotes, and it's like in big letters. It's hard to miss whenever a unit has resist. I'm so sorry. I was getting so many things wrong there. But anywho, that's it for the little keyword skills that I wanted to mention. There are a whole bunch of other ones, but realistically, all keyword skills are shorthand ways to explain whatever it is your units are doing. And it's like it was basically like a new way that that Bushy Road could like add archetypes into decks without having to make like Liberators or Seekers or Eradicators again. It was just for them to like add little things like Blaze decks, Brave decks, Bloom decks, yada yada yada. You already get it. If you guys don't know what any of those words mean, check out the wiki link that I'm going to leave down in the description below, explaining all the keyword skills and the units that have them, if you guys want to build a deck that revolves around those keyword skills. But Lock and Resist are definitely the two most important ones that you guys should keep in mind, because they do matter in terms of building your deck and playing the game. Anywho, moving on to the basic rule changes of the premium format versus the standard format. I'm so sorry one more time, I forgot one more thing to bring up. There's actually this thing called stand triggers in the premium format that aren't in standard, and I thought that'd be important for me to bring up. So here's a stand trigger for you. His name is Inspire Yellow Dragon. You'll see in the upper right hand corner he has a blue symbol, plus 5,000 power, and basically when you check this trigger, instead of giving anything, so you can choose to give something 5k power, and you can choose a rear guard that is rest and stand it up. It was basically an extra attack as a trigger and plus 5,000 power. That's what stand triggers are. A lot of them have effects as well that are actually really broken, and you should consider adding them into any deck, because they actually can be very, very aggressive and also very good for your deck. Moving forward, they were actually very, very powerful towards the end of the history of Cardfight Vanguard. So sorry I did not bring this up during the important mechanic differences in the history of Cardfight Vanguard. Now, last time, moving on to the rule differences in the premium format. Alright everyone, here we are, ready to teach you guys about the rule differences in the premium format versus the standard format. As I've already mentioned, there's two things when it comes to the requirements for striding and legioning and limit breaks. You guys already know those rules because I explained them before. You have to be on grade 3, both you and your opponent, for striding and G-guarding. You have to have the number of damage required to activate your limit break skill, and for legions, you have to have at least 4 cards in your drop zone to return to your deck in order to pay the cost for legion. And also a copy of the unit in deck, I guess. But you could whiff the search, by the way, for legion, fun fact. But we're going to talk about the minor rule addition that is in the game, and that's called the stride phase, or the stride step, it's actually referred to, because it's not its own individual phase. So you guys know you have your draw, your stand, your ride, your main, your battle, your end. Those are your main phases in Vanguard. Well, now you have the draw, the ride, and the stride step. So the ride and the stride step is what happens. So ride, the second you ride, you have the option to discard the cards, or the amount of cards in your hand, that sum up to equal to grade 3. If your opponent is at grade 3, and then you can choose to stride from your deck. Here's what that would look like. As an example, I have my grade 3 on the Vanguard circle. I draw for turn, I ride a new Vanguard, I get my imaginary gift, Force. This all happens during the ride phase. Now the ride phase is over, I've entered the stride step, I choose to go, okay, pay for stride, discard, I go to my extra deck, imagine there's a G unit here, there isn't, there would have been, forgot to add that in there, it's fine, and then I just stride on top of my Vanguard, and then at the end of the turn, after I've attacked and done my drive checks, my turn ends, and then boom, the stride now returns to my G zone, face up. And guess what, guys? That's the only rule difference in premium format. Every other rule is the same. Obviously, there are effects that you have to interact with differently than other effects in the standard format because they don't exist, but you guys already know about that because you've done your research and you know what cards exist in the premium format, and I'm not here to tell you about those because that's a lot of cards to go over in one video. Moving on to how we build decks in premium format. Yeet. What's going on, everyone? The third and final thing that we're going to go over is how we pro Cardfight Vanguard players build premium decks, because look at all these cards. Before, it's easy, you know, in standard, all these blue bordered cards, those are the cards that I can use, but now I get every card you see here. Every card that is in the Kagero pool, I have free reign to use in my decks. Isn't that insane? Like, how would you even go about building a deck? Well, I'm going to show you guys how we do that right now. So imagine we're building a deck for the Draconic Overlord the Great card that's coming out later this month. Later in June, I should say. This will be going up May 31st, not June. So, you know, later on in June, we'll be getting the new Cardfight Vanguard card, Draconic Overlord the Great, and I want to incorporate him into my premium Cardfight Vanguard Kagero deck. Premium. My premium Kagero deck. So how do I go about that? First, I'm going to start with the grade zeros. What do we add? I think Lizard Soldier Kagero is still our best grade 0 starter option because he's just a free +1. No one can mess with that, and it's awesome. Conroe is another good option in that he's a free basic demonic tutor for my grade 1s. That's really cool. But I think I'm going to prioritize the inherent +1. Moving on, our triggers. Obviously, the critical triggers are better than any other crit that we have in Kagero right now because they have more power, or shield, I should say. But there are crits that have abilities and crits with amazing arts, but their shield is inherently less at 10,000 versus 15. So I'm going to stick with the critical triggers that we have now. Likewise with the draw triggers, I'm going to pick the draw trigger PGs. I want to play 4 of them because this allows me to have more space open for the amazing grade 1s that I know exist in Kagero. So I'm going to actively choose to have my grade 0 PGs instead of grade 1 PGs. For sure, even though the grade 1 PGs have great abilities as well. Next up, notice I've only added 6 critical triggers because I'm going to add the stand triggers that Kagero has to offer. Specifically, Inspire Yell Dragon. Where is he? Here he is. I'm going to add 3 of him. Reason for that is he's busted. He is insane. Oh wait, this is supposed to be 5. There we go. He's insane. I love this card. His ability is Blaze. That basically activates whenever you have more rear guards than your opponent. Generation Break 1, put this unit on the bottom of your deck. When your Vanguard becomes blazing, you may pay the cost. If you do, draw a card and choose one of your units, and it gets power +5 until end of turn. He's a unit that shuffles himself back to deck and draws you a card. Really broken, really awesome, and if you check him during your drive check, you can restand one of your rear guards and attack for more. And this deck, being a force deck, means we're going to actually have really high rear guard columns, so being able to attack with those over and over again is going to be really fun. Notice what I'm doing here. I'm taking the cards that have obvious power over other ones, right, like my critical triggers, and those are the ones that I'm including because they're objectively stronger. But I'm including a card like Inspire Yell, whose stats are a little bit worse. You know, he has less shield. He even adds less power when you check him. He adds 5k instead of 10k power, but his ability is just so strong and has so much synergy with the overall idea that I have for the way that this deck will play that I'm including him anyway. That's a really good technique to use. First, look at what is objectively better in terms of stats, power, shield, cost of effects. Do that, and then if all else is equal, look for the synergy, look for what can actually add to your win condition, and then just put that in. That's a really good thing to do, and we're doing it already in the grade zeros because we have the option to with all these amazingly powerful effects. Moving on to the heal triggers, we're actually going to do 3 and then 1 Dragon Dancer Tara because this heal trigger has a nifty little ability that says bind this card and choose a face down and choose another card with the heal text from your drop zone and bind them face up, this card and that one. When this card is discarded from your hand for the cost of calling a G Guardian, you may pay the cost if you do countercharge 1 and soul charge 1. This is resource management for for using a G Guardian, which is an amazing thing. The reason why we're not including more of this is because you don't want a G Guard with every single heal trigger in your deck. So having a more hardcore 20k power shield is actually pretty good. Second thing is, it can work with any heal trigger. So if you just say I have a Genjo in my discard, and then I use Dragon Dancer Tara, I can still just bind her and Dragon Dancer Gojo, and then still get the +1 to Soul and or the +1 counter charge. So one is enough. You could play a 2-2 split and then be able to proc Tara twice in theory, which is really cool. But that would include you having like all your heal triggers used already, and that doesn't matter. Also, we will be including some G guards into our G zone, so boom, natural synergy again. And those are our 17 grade zeros. Moving on to the grade 1s. The grade 1s, again, look at all these grade 1s. You know, we have over 50, I think. But I think an easy trick with the grade 1s is, again, start with what's obviously good. Like, we're running Airmo. Airmo is consistency / resource management. The card, we're gonna be we have retire effects, of course. We're going to have retire effects. We're Kagura, for cripe's sakes. You gotta play your Airmos. Also, an 11k booster is nothing to scoff at. Now, I personally want to build a Dragonic Overlord deck, not a Blade Master deck. Dragonic Overlord the Great. So you want the grade 1 that has the most synergy with Dragonic Overlord. Well, fun fact, guys, that's Lizard General Conroe. This grade 4 here. His ability says when you play him, you can choose a grade 3 from your hand, reveal it, search your deck for any Dragonic Overlord, reveal it and put that into your hand, and then discard a card. This card's really awesome. He lets you filter your deck for grade 3s. You can discard any card other than the one you revealed, so you can actually have 2 grade 3s in your hand. Sets up for Stride, and his second ability says, retire this unit, choose one of your Vanguards with Overlord in its card name, and then until end of turn, when it attacks, countercharge 2. Not once per turn, when it attacks, Overlords restand for their effects, which means on your attack, if you restood and attacked again, that's 4 countercharges, folks. That's resources right there. Broken. He's only 7k, but it's a good 7k. Next up, let's include some Stride synergy. So we'll add Lava Flow Dragon. This card basically is a grade 3 in your hand, so you can discard a grade 1 as if it were a grade 3 and Stride for a lot cheaper. That's really awesome, because sometimes you don't have any grade 3s in your hand and you have to ditch more than 2 cards to Stride. That's actually a -1, and you don't want to do that. This allows you to still Stride with 1 card, but it doesn't have to be a grade 3. And finally, we're going to do Doombringer High Flame, because he again has so much synergy with the main idea of our deck, which is to Stride and have Overlords. He does both those things. His ability literally lets you Stride for free into a Stride that has Overlord in its card name. A lot of Strides do. And then his other ability says when placed, choose 2 cards with Overlord in your card name, up to 2, and return them to your deck, shuffle your deck. If you returned 2, draw a card. Super busted. Returns our grade 3s back to the deck. We are constantly going to be writing grade 3s, calling grade 3s, discarding grade 3s. This card's going to have a lot of synergy in our deck for freaking sure. Moving on to grade 2s. Now, grade 2s are a lot easier because the standard grade 2s are infinitely better. Almost all of the standard grade 2s in the standard format are better than the old ones. There are some neat ones here and there. Some notable ones here. Not really. Like Berserk Dragon is your best grade 2 in the history of Cardfight Vanguard. We're going to be playing Dragonic Overlord the Great, and Strides get to keep the names of Dragonic Overlord the Great. So having Neoflame is going to be really busted because you can add 5k power and +1 critical to your Stride that has triple drive and can actually restand. So that's going to be busted and already infinitely powerful. And then we're going to add Dragonic Burnout because he's actually really broken. Catalyst 1, put a grade 2 or greater card from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck, choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and retire it. You can return your Neoflames, and then use them again and again. Imagine having 2 Neoflames on board, and one Conroe. You retire the Conroe. On your first swing, you counterblast 4, gain 10k and 2 crits to your Vanguard, countercharge 2 of those 2 cards. You restand, you attack again, you countercharge 2 more, bada bing, bada boom. +5, plus like 20k power, plus like 4 criticals. You already see where this is going, you guys. It's actually a pretty powerful deck, and I'm really excited to build this deck moving forward. But again, we took a grade 2 used to play was this card, Nahalem, which he said every time your Vanguard with Overlord attacked, he gained 5k power. Not you. He gained 5k power, so he would gain like 15k power, and he'd be like a 26k beat stick by himself. That was really good. Well, Neoflame's better. Also, we have Force Markers, so we can have really powerful rear guards and a really powerful Vanguard that attacks a lot. And then we can restand them, and then you guys see the synergy and the amount of power that this deck has. Even though we're using a lot of standard cards, just by merely having Stride on top of Imaginary Gift Force is busted, and that's why premium format is actually a really explosive format. Also, a lot of people say it's skillless. No, it actually has a lot more skill involved to it because of all these mechanics, because of all these new rulings, because a lot of decks are pretty equal in power. Every deck has imaginary gifts and strides, so they can all abuse that to do some broken stuff. There are some broken things in premium format, but there's a lot of it, and it's pretty evenly matched. And a lot of the times, the way you win is by outplaying your opponent, not by just having the more broken effect. Obviously, that helps, but not just by having that. You could win a lot easier in premium, and I would argue to say that having strides actually decreases the variance of games, because more often than not you're going to have a good game versus, oh man, I just lost because I had a bad game. Well, you can make up for having a bad game by striding and getting 3 crits and making up for that, or you can have like a really smoking game in terms of setup and then get like nothing on your drive checks, but you still have a pretty smoking game because you're attacking for 26k power a bunch. Like, you don't need, like, there's less variance in premium format. There just is. And there's a lot more skill, and the deck building is honestly hard. And I'm going to get into a very important thing right now when it comes to deck building. What do you use? Do you use break rides? Do you use strides? Do you use stride breaks? Do you use imaginary gifts? Right now, the consensus is focus on the early game, and then because your late game is going to be powerful no matter what. So, what's the most powerful effects for the early game? Imaginary gifts. They're all broken, so a lot of decks still play a lot of imaginary gifts, especially force and protect decks in premium. They focus heavily on using their imaginary gift cards. So we're going to do that now. We're going to play Forge Overlord the Great because he's our best grade 3 to have on Vanguard, because he enables Neo Flame, and he's pretty good by himself too on the turns where we can't stride. Also, you can like Superior Call a Neo Flame, and being able to Superior Call in a Force deck / Incogro is really cool. Next, we're going to add Dragonic Overlord. He's the second best grade 3 we have. He also has force, and if we ride him first and we're going first, we can't stride anyway, so we don't care if we take that extra turn just to try and pressure our opponent a little bit more. Next up, we're going to play 1 Dragonic Overlord Destiny. Like I already said to you guys, resist and lock are very important things, and he's actually a really good card to get around lock, because he can retire locked units, and he can retire your own locked unit. Fun fact. But also, he has amazing synergy with cards like the Conroe, because we can justify playing only one of him because he's so searchable with cards like Conroe. He can search for any Overlord, so by revealing any other grade 3 in our hand, we can go search for, boom, a copy of our Draconic Overlord, the Destiny. Next up, we're going to add ourselves, where is he? Where's the little bugger? Oh, that's grade 2, so where's the little bugger? Here is he. There he is. Fire Rage Dragon, 3 of them. This is by far the most powerful grade 3 in the history of Kagero, and he even has force. So I'm in love with this card. Vanguard, Rearguard, win place, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, put the top card of your deck into your drop zone, choose the same number of your opponent's rearguards as the grade of that card, retire them, and if you did not retire even one unit, this unit gets +1 critical. We play stand triggers. We have force. He's 13k. He has force. He can retire 3 units just by being placed. This card is busted. He's also a grade 3. Notice our number of grade 3s is at a high number. We have, what, 7, 10, 11? We can return the grade 3s to our deck. We can sacrifice them for PGs, G-Guardians, or effects. These cards are incredible. And the way that I'm choosing to build this is that I'm focusing on the early game, which is the Great and the Overlord, but I do have a focus on the late game being my G-Zone, and of course the long-term effects of being able to use Fire Rage Dragon over and over again for like 2 or 3 turns. So, also we have Destiny here as like a little tech / nice synergy with a lot of our strides. Now let's build our G-Zone. A lot less cards to choose from here, and some obvious, really powerful ones. This is a grade 4 here, that's just a normal unit. You know, we already have 50 cards in our main deck, so we cannot add any more main unit cards, but we're going to add our G-Zone now. So this is 16 cards. We're going to start with G-Guardians. We're going to do 1, 1, 2, and 1. So, Denial Griffin, you already know what he does, retires anything. He's really good for retiring pesky rearguards that don't have resist and can just be annoying. We have Defeat Flare. He's actually a really cool combo card that can like retire your opponent's back row, which is really cool. By having a Flame Dragon Vanguard, all these dudes are, except for Fire Dragon. Are you a Flame Dragon? No, you are too. Cool. So that's really good. Next up we have Absalam. He has an effect that basically says he gains 10k power for every open rearguard circle on your opponent's board, which means he can gain 50k shield, or he can gain at least, well, 0, but he's still a 50k shield no matter what. He's our basic perfect guard. And next up, we have Advanced Guard. He Soul Blast 1, choose a face down G Guardian and turn face up to activate his skill. When placed, you may pay the cost if you do choose one opponent's rest, grade 1 or less rear guards, and retire it. He's like a nice targeting retire for coming back into your turn. That can be helpful from time to time for getting away pesky units on your opponent's board during their turn. Next, we're going to add ourselves some powerful grade 4s. We're going to add ourselves 3 Draconic Flow with the Purge, 4 Ziegenberg, and we're going to go ahead and add a Drachma, a Generation Break. No, not you. Where's your face? Which one is it? Oh, there's some Cray Elementals that we could add to. Where is he? Cray Elementals, by the way, are basically cards that can go into any deck. We're going to add a Sea Breeze, and I think we want to add... I guess a Dismal could be cool. I haven't actually thought about the G-Zone for this deck yet, so I'm actually a little wonky here on what we should add in terms of the G-Zone, but I know I want 4 Ziegenberg. I know I want Draconic with the Purge. Oh, duh. We have to add this boy. Expand Grave. Yeah, he's a great on-ride first one duder. Yeah, he's the best one. So, there you guys go. We have built ourselves a premium deck. 66 cards. Ranging from very expensive to not expensive at all. So this deck will probably cost you anywhere from around $200 to $300 if you wanted to build it from scratch. I know there are cheaper options though, like you could build a Blade Master Blaze deck for like maybe $100 and play premium format. There's a lot of ways to go about building premium, but I decided we should build a really powerful deck moving forward. I think this deck is really good, and I do like it a lot. Now that we're done with all of the learning what the mechanics are, learning the little rule differences, very little rule differences, and learning what it's like to build a deck in premium format, let's go ahead and wrap up this video with a nice little outro. Whoosh. There you guys go. That is my learn how to play the Cardfight Vanguard premium format. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it was a nice little sequel to the original video that I posted way back when, that 8 months ago, Steven. Oh, such horrible quality. I can't believe people liked that video and learned a lot from it. Hopefully you people learned a lot from this video. I definitely learned a lot by making it. I remembered a whole bunch. I got to feel like all kinds of nostalgia for this game that I've been a part of for almost 10 years now. So I'm really happy that I got to help some people out. If I did, please be sure to let me know that by leaving a like and subscribing. If you're new to that, you guys know when my videos go live for you. And anywho, I've been your Truechampionsteven. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. I cannot wait to see some more card fighters in the future, join some premium tournaments. With all that being said, always remember to work hard, rest easy, and live well, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.